Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure to be a host for this panel discussion. We have a very interesting topic in front of us, driving innovation and technology implementation in learning and development. I think last year has been full of challenges for all of us in many areas. And I think especially in the L&D area has put big strain on HR, L&D professionals, but also the whole L&D industry. We all had to figure out how to deliver training and development to our employees under this so-called new normal, right? I mean, e-learning has been around for more than 20 years now, but it has never become the mainstream in L&D. And quite frankly, I think that certain topics are very well suitable for e-learning or a remote sort of delivery. But you know, how to deliver topics like soft skills, presentation, leadership training, engagement, and all these topics where you really need interaction and engagement with the participants. So I think there has been a lot of challenges, a lot of effort to innovate and try to find a way forward, because it was quite clear that the situation would not normalize in a short period of time. And we have quite an interesting group of panelists here with us that will actually help us to deep dive into this topic. We have Sanjay, who is the Executive Vice President and Head of HR at ITC Hotel Group. We have Harish Dayani, Vice President and Head of Sales, Direct Distribution, and Head of L&D for Aditya Birla Health Insurance Company Limited. We have Amit Gautam, who is CEO of Upside LMS. And last but not least, the flower among the thorns, Mrs. Neelam Aluwalia, Vice President for L&D in Big Basket. Now, I would like to ask you, dear panelists, if you could introduce yourself in a shorter period of time. Please, Mr. Sanjay.
Thank you, Václav. That's a very interesting start to the day for us here. Good morning and good afternoon to you, audience. My name is Sanjay Bose, and I head HR for ITC's Hotel Group. Now, just to give you a perspective, ITC's Hotel Group is the third largest in India, and ITC itself is one of the three or four largest conglomerates based out of India. Been 23 years in the field of HR and with hotel industry, different companies. So I bring to you today a lot of perspective from my industry. Look forward to an interesting discussion.
Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Harish, please.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for being a part of this meeting, this discussion today. I am a part of the Aditya Birla Group. Everyone knows the name and it's well known across various industries. I am part of the Aditya Birla Capital and the financial services wing, which is health insurance. Now, personally, my passion is technology and digital, not from a shall I say, expert who knows it point of view, but from a practitioner's point of view. So I kind of get very enthused with trying to solve real world challenges, be it in sales, be it in L&D, and being on both sides of the table, because I'm in part of sales as part of L&D as well. It's a wonderful perspective, and I do my best to bring in some perspectives about how L&D and sales can kind of merge together to bring across better results for businesses. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Over to Mr. Amit.
Thank you, Václav. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. And I'm really pleased to be here with such an eminent panel. From my background perspective, I have spent about 20 years in the field of learning solutions, more from the provision perspective, I have been a part of a few companies where we offered and deployed solutions for the companies. Today, I run Upside LMS and Plethora Learning. We offer learning solutions for corporate, both learning platforms and other solutions, ready learning solutions for digital catalog. And see, today Upside LMS is one of the only Indian companies who feature in training industry's top 20 LMS, and also one of the only, actually the only Indian company featuring in Fosway's 9 grid as a potential performer. And all of this has been possible because of our experience with a large group of companies over the last many years. So my perspective is mostly from experiencing and interacting with people who are in the panel today and many more such people in this field of L&D and HR. So I will, from my side, bring to the table what I have seen and learned and how things have changed in the last 1 year specifically. And I hope that does add value to the group and to everyone who is with us. So thank you for joining us and good morning again.
Thank you very much. And the best for last, Mrs. Neelam, please, your introduction.
Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. I am Neelam and I work for Big Basket. And I would, the way I love to introduce Big Basket is that we are India's most loved online grocery store. And I'm very proud to be associated with them and bring today the initiatives and how did we look at learning in a digital form. Personally, I have I think, deep passion for social psychology, and I love to create business solutions which are both human and digital helping. Thank you very much. And I'm glad to be here.
Thank you very much. And I'm Václav Koranda. I'm the Vice President for HR at T-Systems Malaysia. T-Systems is a multinational ICT outsourcing provider based in Germany, headquartered in Germany. I used to be VP HR for T-Systems in Czech Republic, which is my home country. Now I've been working and living in Malaysia for almost 7 years. It's a very exciting thing to live in Southeast Asia, and I enjoyed very much. And let's see what the future has in store. And it's also my great pleasure to be your moderator for this session today. All right, then let's start with the questions straight away. Amit, I would like to ask you, what is the learning from the past year in the context of learning technology solutions, please?
Thank you, Václav. Last year, as everyone knows, has been special for all around us. And, I think for us, what we have seen, and I can categorize our learning specifically into 4 areas. So one is the technology itself, the impact on technology. The one is the learning impact. How did the learning itself change? And the third impact, which I think is the most important one, is the learners themselves, how they have been through this challenge. And fourth impact is the overall ecosystem, around the learning ecosystem which we are operating in right now. From a technology perspective, I think the biggest impact was that, and we have seen that, we had almost 1.5 million users on our system. And the usage was about 5 to 6, 7, maybe 10% on an average on a monthly basis. And within a week of, when things shut down, people moved home. I think within a week, the usage actually tripled and even quadrupled in some cases. And that kind of put the pressure and the highlight and the spotlight on the kind of technology being used to deliver learning solutions. And we realized that, it has to be absolutely reliable and available all the times, because as people moved to remote locations, the time of the usage of these solutions, is 24 hours. And, so the systems we have, the companies using, they have to be available and reliable. And also the kind of security implications, they increased a lot. A lot of companies, a lot of customers we have, they have firewalls and they have mechanisms for safety and security of the content they put in the system, and even the data, the user data. And that we saw as a very big impact, because suddenly, we realized that if the system is not designed for that eventuality, it is not going to help any customer or any corporate. So that was one big impact we noticed. The second was the learning itself, as the kind of situation unfolded, customers were talking to us about, and we saw a difference in the need. It was no more, delivery of courses. It was actually, there's a lot of thought behind how do we now operate in this environment? How do we help the learners learn on their own? And that is the third impact, is the learners themselves. Is, from suddenly from a management platform perspective, we saw almost all our customers were talking about how can the learners use the system without a lot of guidance, without a lot of help. And it has to be not just a easy system, but also driven by learners. Can they find the right content? Can they define their own learning journeys? Can they, create a plan which works for their routine? And we all know the last year, not just, in the learning field, every employee, single employee has been a lot of fatigue, under a lot of stress. In fact, a lot of studies suggest that we have actually overworked from home. We have not reduced our work. Despite a better balance, we have actually ended up working more hours on a normal day when working from home or remote locations. Now, with that all, fatigue already in place, stress in place, can the systems make it easy for the learners to, find the right thing of piece of content, piece of training, or piece of information, and it's easy for them to access. So, things like on demand, search, which they're always there, but the intuitiveness of these features, these solutions, it has a different perspective now. And I think the overall, ecosystem which we saw change from an L&D HR perspective was, and this is for all the corporate we interact with, the focus on learners' well-being, mental well-being, that was a big impact area. Not just from a perspective of, when can the learners use the system, but also the kind of training available in the systems to help learners manage their stress, their time better. Can we have a holistic approach to a learning environment, which is also, healthier for everyone? It's kind of not, kind of a stress on the mental well-being. So I think in my perspective, and we have seen a huge spurt in access usage of the learning systems. And even with things going back to, let's say, I don't know what is the new or old normal, but things becoming different than they are today, they still, the growth will still continue, the usage will still continue, because not because it is easier, but it is actually more effective in these times. And also there is a lot of uncertainty around what is going to happen in the next few years. And I think also, systems who are designed with a perspective of, making it quick and intuitive for the learners, those systems have, I'm sure, worked better than others. And so that's my take. And this all again comes from what we have experienced and interacted with our customers, and things, they continue to change. But in a short summary, there's a lot of focus on shorter learning, designs, and something which does not take a lot of time, can be spread across, spans of time, and does not have to be completed within a single sitting or a session. So videos or micro learning, short learning bites, and the collaboration and communication within the learning environment. For example, and this is also something we saw, that a lot of people who joined new, even though people were being laid off in some companies, they were hiring. I think Big Basket, they hired about 17,000 people in the last, in the first few months of the lockdown, and that does put a pressure on how fast and quick and agile the learning and development team can be. So I think all of these environments and all of these points is what we saw as the biggest impact. And that's my perspective. Thank you.
All right. I think I understand you perfectly. Coming from an IT company myself, I have to say, when the first lockdown came in Malaysia, it was actually almost exactly just a year ago. We were also struggling with, a massive increase of usage of the infrastructure, and everybody was working remotely from home, and there were outages and things like that. And our guys were very busy and had to basically fix everything and upgrade the whole infrastructure within a few days. Now, I would like to ask Harish the next question, and that's, what do you think is the key to the learning and development technology transformation, given the fact that organizations are currently grappling with rapid transformations in their business models?
Sure, thanks, Václav. So, in fact, what both of you just said, what Václav and Amit just talked about was I was actually taking a trip down memory lane and going through and living through what exactly we've been through in this last 1 year. And yes, absolutely, bang on, Amit, some of the stuff that you said. I was actually making some notes here that, the tech, the learning, the learners, and the ecosystem all went through some major changes. So, what I feel in terms of how L&D tech can make a difference, being an enthusiast myself, something, first of all, when you have a large and diverse workforce, which constitutes of about 70-75% or 80% sales, which is out there, thousands of people out there, and then you've got somewhere around 30% or 25% non-sales staff, which is at the back end. And all of this completely gets thrown off balance when suddenly you hear that, okay, we can't go to office anymore and all of that. So what we've been through as a journey and, to tackle this challenge, and what our organizations also are facing that same. So be it from the boardroom to the training room, the same challenges are being felt by them as well. So what we kind of looked at is, I think this turned out to be an amazing opportunity for L&D and us training fraternity, HR fraternity. It turned out because the opportunity that came was that now people actually sat up and took a lot of notice of, okay, this is what we really need to invest in, because this is going to be, I don't know, like Amit said, a new normal, old normal. Is it here to stay? Is it going to change us forever? And we can see some signs of that. So what we did was, and I'd like to take a leaf out of something which the group did, and we led that, is we figured out, first of all, we tried to figure out amongst a diverse workforce, what are those key competencies? So we went back to the drawing board and looked at each and every competency threadbare for thousands of different workforce profiles, because the time came for us to be able to digitize this very quickly, and we could do it. Earlier, when we were in a classroom environment, our mindset never told us or allowed us to think of it like that. Now, a crisis made us see the opportunity. And when we built that entire ecosystem at the back end, defined the competencies, we were able to, the business gave us a job and said, can you bring learning specific to an individual instead of doing a one-size-fits-all? And we actually went ahead and designed some 117,000 different algorithms, which got going against each and every competency framework that we had. And now, what Amit rightly said a little while ago, individual development plans. People actually now have the flexibility to design their own development plan on what skills they need under coaching and guidance by their managers. In what framework do they need it? Okay, so do they need it in formal training? Do they need to work on a project with a live environment? Or is it something that the manager can coach them through? So, learning does not happen all in the classroom. It happens 70% on the job, and 20% by the manager, and 10% in the classroom. So we were in a position, and we are now in that transition where the phase 1 has been rolled out. We've actually now got individual development plans for every employee in the workforce of about 4,000 people. And the system is built for any volume. So it's an indigenously designed system with a partner. We worked on it closely for the last 1 year. We are in phases of rollout. And the early signs are that people are very excited. They're saying, now finally I get to pick up what I want rather than what you're giving me. So, one of them actually said in one of our forums that the well has come to the thirsty. Normally we say that the thirsty go to the well, but now the well has come to the thirsty, and you can choose whether you want a glass of water or you want an entire bucket full. It's your call. Yeah. So that was what was exciting about it. The business loves it because it invests time of people in a way they want. And it has a very strong structured dashboard, which at the back end manages thousands of people and has the capacity to manage many more. And this is just phase 1. So we kind of building it to have things which people can just, or buy off the shop. You can have links of other channels, TED, YouTube, other LMS providers can jump onto that platform and provide their services at a fee, which we can then do a billing at the back end. So it's I'm extremely excited on what it is today, but I said, fingers crossed, it's just phase one to start with. But yeah, this is how we can look at, making it individual, making it relevant, making it what the business wants, and then linking it to productivity, because it's still early days for us. We can link it to productivity later, but not now. So that's what I think, Vaslav. That's what we can bring to the table when a crisis hits us.
Sure. Very relevant for sure. Thank you very much. However, I very much resonate with what you said, that as much as the last year posed a challenge into the whole area, it also presented us with an opportunity to implement these programs, as you've just said, right? But maybe for your company being an insurance company, or my company being an IT company, where essentially everyone has a laptop and access to the network. How about organizations that don't have these opportunities for each and every employee? So in that sense, I would like to pass the baton to Sanjay. Could you please tell us something about how do organizations with low digital literacy drive adoption of L&D technology and innovation in learning?
Thanks, Vasu. That's something very, very specific to us, and thank you for giving me the cue. First, let me explain my industry in 15 seconds. Unlike most industries, here my business impact is most dependent on at the bottom of the pyramid. So when the customer walks into a hotel, the last person in the pyramid is the one who's interacting with the customer and makes a difference in the service quality. So in that sense, there's a huge impact, which that moment of impact, which between the customer and the associate, which is created. And a lot of our business actually depends on how that moment of truth goes. So for us, and by intrinsic nature of the business, we are more about people, we are about warmth, we are more about reading cues and intuitively providing service, which begs to say that there's not much of a digital dependence or digital adoption, but it's more about a human element. So if I look at industry segment, hospitality, in terms of having a PC per employee, it comes at the lowest ratio, somewhere near the lowest. So yes, so for us, we have been in combining traditional learning with IT-based learning management systems for about 15 years now, like all of us. However, the adoption has been pretty low. Now, when we started looking at it, there were 3 or 4 reasons. First is, as we all know, when you look at low-level skills, even middle-order skills, learning happens most by either observing or seeing it on the job, right? Couple that with the piece that we are more about interacting with the guest and not so much about classroom. Our classroom sessions were not as effective as we wanted it to be. If there was something which was probably more, not liked than a classroom session, was online training sessions, which happened in a controlled environment where people were asked to log on into module and take a course. So as we went into the pandemic, this is where we were. Adoption was low. We were thinking of ways on how to make it more creative and make it more appealing to people and create that trigger within the masses, the bottom of the pyramid, to get into self-development and self-learning on an online mode. So that was a backdrop. And then the pandemic hit. For 3 months, we were a business which was not doing any business, right? All hotels were shut. There were no footfalls. You could not, the restaurants were down. There were obviously no rooms which were being checked into. And that actually gave us an opportunity to see if we can make some changes in the way people think. What helped was that people were at home and they didn't have much work to do except worry about what's going to happen to their livelihoods, what's going to happen in the overall economy, etc., etc. So almost overnight, we tried to give them a piece which would keep them engaged. So we started from a gamification point of view. We started from a bite-sized learning point of view. We started giving them stuff which was structured in a way which would make them interesting and take their mind off from whatever they were currently focusing on. So we did a few things. One is overnight, we tied up with a content provider who was able to push his content down with her. Overnight, we tried to reach our employees and gave them access to this content. And this content was not in a structured learning format. This was gamified. This was quizzes and competitions. This was about choosing your own stuff in your own work area. Like we heard Harish say, you could customize the number of programs and the number of learnings that you wanted to do. And to top that approach, we attached a number of quizzes and competitions around it. And this all happened within a week of the lockdown. And it was not easy for us because everyone was at home and, we're not used to working from home and so on. So anyways, so this happened. And within the second or the third week of lockdown, this was a hit. Everybody in our system was locked down. Everybody was trying to gain as much knowledge as they could because it was fun. And countrywide, from the entire expanse of India, we had, for example, bartenders. So countrywide, the bartenders got online to learn more about their cocktails and their martinis and so on. And it all culminated into a competition on who knows most, right? It would be best if you did a hands-on thing, but since that was not there, here we are talking about, the cocktails and the martinis and so on. And the adoption was so high that we had to actually ask people to slow it down. There were employees in our system who took on courses for about 48 hours nonstop, quite a few. Okay, so we had to actually reverse the flow and ask people, hey, slow down. We don't want you to spend so much time on the LMS and so on. So, but what happened is culturally it just turned it upside down and people started enjoying what they were doing, looking at the content and the way it was presented. So that was one piece. The second piece was, our challenge was, while this was happening during the pandemic, how do we make it sustainable post-pandemic? Because certainly this kind of an overdrive, which started off during the pandemic, was not healthy. And we wanted it to be a sustainable journey. So we started dialing down the competitions and the quizzes. And as hotels started reopening in our country, we had new processes which come in, which were about low touch, right, more hygiene, etc. So about 75% of our operational processes were revamped. As we were revamping the processes and the workforce started coming back into the hotels, we started leveraging the online technology to coach them on the new processes. So here, from being a total online, it became a hybrid, wherein they pick up some amount of learning on an online platform, and then they come in, and that's reinforced at the work area. And that is how we started coming back into the so-called new normal. As of now, we see
very much. Thank you, Sanjay.
Yes,
interesting, and I was always
2 seconds more, Vaslav. Just 2 seconds more. We have seen huge adoption, not only in the learning piece, but we have seen a huge impact on how the customer has started receiving the service now. We're still doing a lot of research on that, on devising the correlation between the two. But certainly we see that the customer is seeing a lot of change in the way the service is being given. No? Thank you. Thank you, Vaslav.
Thank you so much. I have to be I'm sorry for interruption, but I have to be cautious about the time because we also have to give space to Mrs. Neelam. Could you please tell us about your strategy for learning and development, digital transformation at Big Basket?
Thanks, Vaslav, and hello everybody again. So for us, the digital transformation journey did not start with pandemic. I think it started in 2015-16 because of the sheer volume that we had, the number of people that we were hiring. I think the first attempt that I remember I made for looking at a partner to digitize the learning was in January 2016. However, back then, and I'm saying back then about 6 years earlier, it was not more about learning. I think it was about the perception of learning. And I will completely agree with what Sanjay said and Harish said and Amit said that pandemic actually opened up a lot of L&D digital learning platforms for us. But in 2016, it was looked upon as something which is very niche. There are only certain criteria that you need to fill in to digitize the content. And the first question I remember being asked is why? Why do you want to? Are people not doing a good job? Or what are the benefits of it? Kind of a thing. And there was a lot of perception about kind of people who will adopt to digital learning. So we are a retail e-commerce combination. And, as with Sanjay, we have a lot of people with the first moment of truth is when my frontliner or my delivery boy meets the customer and he's the point of contact. And the question was, how will he learn digital? And I think breaking this barrier, breaking this stereotype, breaking this perception was my biggest challenge, or probably the starting of my strategy, because though I have a lot of millennials and the perception is they learn better digitally, but in today's world, I think all of us have WhatsApp, all of us are on YouTube, all of us are on Facebook. The only thing that we have to realize is that the learning for him may not come from a case study, or you can't send him links to to read something. For him, as Sanjay said, or as Harish said, it has to be more learning, more fun, more into the moment. If I learn this, I'll get this. It's the instant gratification at that level is more higher than at a millennial level. So the strategy at that point of time was support from the top. I would want the leaders to understand, and more than leaders, even the managers of the frontliners to understand that even they can learn. They are not averse to digital learning. The adoption will not be lower. Secondly, learning is fun, but it's compulsory. So it's important to your job, right? Because we are a digital company. We scan through, the entire work happens to an app on a phone, which is given to him at the time of joining. So it's fun, but it's compulsory because you have to learn it. Otherwise, you will not be able to deliver or do whatever you're supposed to do. Secondly, I think just to ensure that I am not pushing it too hard at that point of time, for the frontliners, I kept a blended learning approach. So I didn't move digital 100%. As I moved probably 95% with my millennials, with them, I moved like 50% digital, but 50% still was a classroom training that happened. And that was the strategy at that point of time that we adopted. With pandemic, I didn't have to change gears or start looking at how do I digitize, because that had become in the last 4 years a part of their learning. As I said, adoption was slow, but it was consistent. People were more looking at, and as we grew from 8,000 in 2016 to about 30,000 in 2019, digital learning became a way of life. All of us were learning, all of us were having fun, and all of us were, were wanting to learn online. So there was no resistance that was there. But with all of you, obviously things change for us overnight, but things change exactly the way opposite, like it changed for Sanjay. Within 24 hours, 80% of our workforce left. And when I say left, they were not there in the morning. The footfall on the website went almost 300 times, to an extent that the website had to be revamped and a version 2 had to be launched in about 24 hours. And I didn't know what to do, because they were like, and I was just waiting, though I couldn't even say that let people come in 15 days. I was also hoping people to turn up tomorrow, and the HR reached out to a lot of people, and we, as Amit mentioned, we had about 18,000 people out of 20,000 people left us, and we hired them. And within 48 hours, the HR said, we'll get you people, don't worry about it. Now these are people who are temporary. These are Zoom car drivers or probably somebody, gig workers who are coming and were helping you. These are not permanent. And I didn't know whether they will adopt to e-learning or not, because I had certain amount of people who had come and we trained them. So for us, I think that what changed was which lever to pull in the digital learning. How do I train them only for 30 minutes and only for the job that they're required to do? And at the pace that Big Basket was changing, we couldn't go to people's home, we couldn't deliver it. So we started with community distribution center where, wherein a van would come to your clubhouse and deliver, and now you come and take the order yourself. Now that meant was left for us not only training the people, training the customers also, that now we are not coming. So which means a lot of online learning stuff went on social media for us to tell the customers that, or probably recordings on the website, there were a lot of videos saying that we are not coming. There's a new method that is there, and please learn this new method of taking your groceries from us. All right. So I think for me, the learning was both, and that's what changed for us. But I think we were able to go through it. Small learning modules for 1 hour, 35 minutes is what we used, and that's what went ahead. The major part learning today is moving behavioral training online. That's what we are doing. We are beefing up our courses, seeing how can psychometric testing and behavioral and soft skill courses go online. But that's what we have to look at the other side. I agree with Harish, Sanjay, and Amit. If this is the new normal, then doing coaching online is also the new normal. And then how do you do that is what I'm struggling with.
Yeah, thank you very much. I have been thinking all the time about, this kind of industries like the hotel industry or your like delivery industry, how much you must have been suffering during these times. And it's very interesting to hear these insights, how you actually use the time and the window of opportunity that was created by this situation to actually move your business onto the next level. And I think the fact that we are all still here means that it has been successful so far. So let's keep the fingers crossed. Now, we have some questions from the audience here. Achita, if I pronounce the name correctly, has a question for Sanjay. Did you select one content provider or did you have multiple content providers? Also, can you please share how you selected the content providers?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, Ajita. We had multiple content providers and we selected them basis 3 criteria. One is how was their content presented? Like I said earlier, it was more about gamification, bite size, etc. Second was about their domain expertise. So we had some hospitality experts who provided the hospitality content. And then the other pieces of procurement, logistics, finance, etc. That was the second factor which was used. The third was how quick they could mobilize it for us, because at that point of time, what was very important was the speed of deployment. And there were some who were obviously taking a slightly longer time, and that was not negotiable at our end. So yes, we use these 3 criteria to use it. And let me see the second part of the question.
The first part.
So I think I've answered
whether
that.
You had the content providers and how many content providers, and then how you selected them. So I think you pretty much answered it. Thank you. Then there's another question from Rohan Chadaf, and that's for all of us, basically. Can the panel share best practices for attracting and keeping the undivided attention of learners, especially now that they are bombarded with resources from all sides? I mean, I can see the challenge myself, not only in L&D, but basically in all this remote working, how to make sure that there's really active participation from the employees. Anyone who wants to, maybe Harish, you haven't spoken for quite a while.
Yeah, sure, Vaslav. In fact, I was just going to say that I'll take that. So Rohan, what I just said a little while ago, I think that helped us a lot. When you have the learner themselves telling you that I want my next role or my next task that I want to be in, or when I want to grow in this organization to this level. And this is the learning I want from you to be able to do that. So it could be a promotion, it could be a role change, it could be a new assignment or a project. And then when they put that on a digital platform, which is curated for them, it's extremely interesting to see that participation automatically happens. And they go in there, in fact, the platform is, what it does is it actually makes them by force, at some point in time, you also have to by force ask them, okay, so you attended this program or you did this project, what were the 3 things you learned and how are you going to apply that on the job? So until they fill that in, and until that's seen by the manager and approved by the manager, they can't move forward. And all of this data or this information is used towards the end, at the appraisal end, year-end cycle, in a one-on-one discussion with the manager as to how they've worked on their own IDP, how has that helped them. And people who show that interest in their own learning, people who actually show interest in taking some glasses of water from the well and drinking it, are the ones who are preferred for a certain role that comes up, vis-a-vis those who aren't. So these are some of the ways in which we kind of built it into the system, that this is how you can drive a lot more participation, a lot more engagement. Even if the video is off, I know that the guy is listening in because he's later on got to talk about with his manager what he heard, what he learned or she learned. So I guess, Rohan, we've been able to fix that a little. If others want to add in some form or the other, I'd leave it, or I'll pass it on to Vaslav.
All right. Sanjay, you want to say something? You want to add something?
Yeah, just a quick addition to that. So there are many tools which are there which which measure your attention on the screen while you're taking a course, etc. And that's improving, almost on a daily basis. But what's worked for us more than that is the human piece. So we have, over the last 1 year, we have coined this term called my pace, my space learning. So if you look at the 2 dimensions of allowing the person to learn at their own pace, that's very effective. So as we speak, as of yesterday, we have rolled out the program for the next 12 months, and individuals are free to take it over the next 12 months at whatever pace they want to take. It could be family issues, it could be personal issues, it could be focus issues. You have a full 12-month window to undertake a certain learning journey. So that's the one piece. The second, of course, is my space, which is anytime, anywhere. As long as we enable learning modules to be available anytime, anywhere, that we see is very, very effective. So those are 2 pieces I wanted to add. Vaslav, over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now we have another question from the audience from Miss Archana Santaram. I think it's a perfect question for Amit. And it's a question for e-learning platforms with plug and play technology. What is your take on that?
So, Archana, I think that's a very relevant question. While of course during the pandemic and of course even before then, systems were expanding their own set of features and benefits they offer, so they were becoming stronger. But I think in the last 1 year, I have observed, and not just in the field of learning technology, but in almost all technology possible, fintech to health tech to insurance tech, there's an explosion of so many companies which are able to offer so many solutions. And while some of them overlap, some of them do not, which means as a customer you have access and options to implement and deploy solutions that meet a set of needs very, very well and much better than maybe most of the other competition. But it also puts you in a spot where you might end up with 3 or 4 systems which have to talk to each other. And while yes, there have been a lot of explosion in this space, there's also kind of a realization which almost all companies today have, is that no system can work alone or independently. So like for us, for example, ourselves, we have now a separate team which only works on integrations, and our aim is to create as many hooks as possible for as many systems as possible. And it's not just HR and L&D space. It could be anything. For example, like Sanjay mentioned, content for gamification. Now it could be a different platform which is being used. If it cannot work with a different system, it may not, the both the the managers and the employees may not be able to see a full picture. Like Harish referred to a dashboard they use, but that dashboard, and I think he mentioned that they have built a platform which anybody can plug into. I think that's a beautiful vision, because for a learner, it doesn't matter what is coming from where, as long as they're able to see holistically what is going on. So I think this plug and play is going to increase. And you know as far as I've seen, I think thankfully the vendors which understand what is
Okay, okay. Thank you very much. Now we have got another question from the audience. I think Amit has frozen a little bit, so let's give the word now to Mrs. Neelam. And I think this is going to be our last question because the time is slowly coming to the end. Question from Vipin Joseph. Some insights on basically how your L&D team will continue to build upon the learning ecosystem in the next 2 years. I think you already mentioned something about the next stages, so if you can expand a little bit on that, please.
Sure. Thanks, Václav. Hi, Vipin. I think with the new normal, as we say, or the new abnormal that we want to, I think building on the learning ecosystem is important, and moving it equally, both digital and classroom training, is something that we're looking forward to. As I said, the biggest challenge is one of the questions that some of you posed is how do you keep the learners engaged? And also, how do you move people training online? How do you build ecosystems that can have more role plays online, can have more simulation online, can have more personal touch online? And that's what I think we want to build in this year. So a couple of things that have come back very, very normally is coaching. Coaching is something that is, people are happy in their space to be coached online. But how do you engage an audience which is 20, wherein peer learning is important? And how do you build a system that peer learning happens online? And if it doesn't, then what are the other things that you want to? I know Zoom has breakout rooms wherein you can put people together and create a small room out of a room and have focus group discussions on that. But then is that solving the problem and giving the real touch that we were going in the classroom training, is something that we want to build in this year.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anyone else wants to say a few last words on this topic?
I think that, just very briefly, since we are out of time as well, this is going to happen in phases, like Neelam rightly said. So we're going to always be looking out for what we can do better, because digital, you can just imagine, if you refer to the movie The Matrix, which is my favorite, you can do just about anything you want. And I guess, it depends on how far you can think what you need. So that's my limited point here, Václav.
All right. I think just about 2 minutes towards the end. Timing is essential, especially if you work for a German company like me. So, if you come 1 minute late to the meeting, it's not so good. If you come too early, it's also not so good. So, thank you very much for all your insights. I think it was a very, very interesting discussion. I think that our topic, innovation and technology implementation in learning and development, has been very important, especially during this pandemic. And I really believe it will be very important going forward as well. And the focus will not go away, because I'm always thinking and trying to imagine what the real new normal is going to be like, because people like to talk about new normal, that we live in the new normal. I don't think we live in the new normal. I like to call this temporary abnormal, because wearing face mask and spraying disinfection all over everywhere and keep social distancing is not normal for me. It's not natural for humans, right? So let's see what the vaccination will bring, or whether there will be a medicine or something that will finally take the coronavirus out of the picture. And then the question is what the new normal will be like, right? And I believe that all these innovations and all this additional stress and strain and effort which we have put into all these things will definitely pay off. And I think it's slowly starting to be time to think about what are the important elements we have to learn from this pandemic and which we have to actually carry over into the new normal. And with that, thank you very much. Great session. Have a great rest of the afternoon, and maybe see you next time at a different occasion. Thank you.
Thank you, Vasu.
Thank you, Wesley.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good
Bye.
session.